Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today, what I want to do is something that I think that has helped me as a collector is to take a look at the different tiers of watches in terms of the different criteria and say, well, okay, is there something in this tier that would fit well for the kind of watches I want to collect? And so the more I looked at it, the more it made sense to me. Everything doesn't have to be high horology, and everything doesn't have to be, something cheap or a vintage is a pretty good watch. But I think it's helped me to clarify what I think is something, hey, this would be nice to have. Now, it's not an obsession, but rather just sort of a guide for trying to figure out some collection directions. So I'm going to talk about the four tiers: the standard horology, strong horology, high horology, and exceptional horology. So let's get going. Now, standard horology, when I was looking at that, now by standard horology, I mean these are watches or watch companies that have, pretty average Joe kind of movements in them. Mostly ETA, but sometimes Sellita or Soprod. And both the Sellita and the Soprods tend to be some kind of, I don't want to use the word clone, but pretty close to it. All right. Okay. Now, the first one may surprise a lot of you, and this is the Christian van der Klaw Series 74. Now, if you look at the watch rankings, you'll see that Christian van der Klaw is in the tippity top of exceptional horology. And they probably should be, except for a couple exceptions, and this is one. And the movement is a Soprod. I think it's Soprod A10 version 2. And the watch itself that interests me is the moon phase. The moon phase, Christian van der Klaw is famous for doing these beautiful watches and a lot of hand finishing and everything else to them. The Series 74 has a Christian van der Klaw. It's a CVDK something or other movement, which is a whatever kind of astrological material that they put on top of the basic movement is all Christian van der Klaw, but the movement itself is Soprod. Now, these are about $5,000 and standard horology is very, very high, I think, for standard horology. But in this case, I think it's very, very low because you have, on the one hand, you have this tippy-top guy in Christian van der Klaw doing the design of the entire watch, really, and the movements that go into it for the moon phase. The rest of it is just a super interesting watch. The other watch that, or one of the other two watches I want, the Steinhardt regulator. I'm really not sure why I wanted a regulator, but I thought, well, why spend a lot of money on a regulator? I really like a couple different ones. I like the Christopher Ward one, but the problem with the Christopher Ward one, it only comes with a dark dial on it, and for the most part, I didn't think it was done right. I mean, the contrast between the hands and the information and this dark dial aren't that great. Otherwise, it would have probably wanted it. So I thought, well, heck, I'll get a Steinhardt. This thing's about $700, brand new, and it uses a 6498 movement, and that's one of the reasons I really like it, is to wind up, which I happen to prefer. The other one is an Oris Big Crown Pro Pilot altimeter. and it has a Sellita SW200 movement in it. The reason I wanted that, and again, it's got the black dial, but it's got great contrast. You can see how it uses the whites and the yellows and even the reds to pop out information from that dark background. Okay, why that one? Altimeter. I don't have, I think having a mechanical watch with an altimeter in it is the coolest thing. And this Horus Big Crown Pro Pilot altimeter is one of those. Just that'd be a very cool watch. Again, it's not something I'd be using a great deal of the time, but it's something I'd like to have. And so if you have something like that you're really not gonna use that much, why pay a whole lot of money for it? It's sort of my view on it. The Christian Vanderclaw, on the other hand, is just sort of a, I don't know, something. I've always liked Christian Vanderclaw. They have one called the Real Moon, and it's a little sphere-shaped moon inside of it. Gorgeous watch, but it's just like super expensive. Okay, let's go on. In Strong Horology was easy and difficult at the same time. For a long time, I've wanted the Rolex Cellini Prince. And the funny thing is that the one I wanted initially isn't the one I still want. This particular one that I happen to like has this circular guilloche kind of stuff on the front. Then you flip it over on the back and you can see that same design, the circular Geneva waves on the back of it. I just think it's a very cool watch. It's got a good movement. It's got an interesting movement, and it's hand wound. It's one of the few hand wound Rolexes you can find. The other one that I wanted for a while and really like is the Harboring 2 Doppel Felix. It just won the Grand Prix award for, I think, Petite Aiguille, which is now changed to watches under $10,000. That watch is incredible. I love it. The other one is an Omega Seamaster. I'm sorry, Speedmaster. Two reasons I wanted it. One was that it has an Lamania base movement, and the original moon watch, the original one that went to the moon, had a Lamania, whatever it's called, movement in it, and then this one has that. Plus, it has the coaxial escapement. So each one of these watches has something I really like and would really like to have. The Harboring 2 has the Rattrapant. The Omega has the coaxial plus the Lamania movement. Plus, it's a cool watch. And then finally, the Rolex. This is one category that I would sort of have to really think about which way to jump first because I like all three of them so much. Okay, for high horology, here, for a long time, I wanted the Patek Philippe 524G. Like that watch, period. That's about all I can say about it. It's not that I don't have some rectangular shaped watches. I simply happen to like that one a lot. The other one I like a lot, in fact, might even be my first choice, is the Breguet Tradition. Boy, I love that watch. It looks like, you know, if somebody showed me that and said, "Hey, Breguet himself made it," I wouldn't doubt it. What an interesting watch. I mean, just totally interesting. Looking at the dual wheels there. I think they're, let me see. I'm not sure if, well, maybe they are. I'm not sure whether they're balance wheels or one's a balance wheel and one's something else. Finally, in high horology, for a long time I sort of wanted a Lange und Sünde. but I wasn't sure which one I wanted and what I wanted it for. And I like this 1815 up down. And they're well-made watches. And this one I liked, and it's got a power reserve indicator and small seconds. Not crazy about it, but I do like it. That would be on my list, and if not that particular model of A Longa or A Longa, it would be one that would be similar to it. Okay, finally, for exceptional horology, I changed my mind on one watch that I had wanted for a while, and that's the Lang & Hein. I used to want the Frederick III, but now I want the Frederick II. And the reason for that is that I didn't realize that the Frederick II had Arabic numbers. I prefer Arabic numbers over Roman numerals. With most of my watches, I have that. And this one I really like. I would spend as much time looking at the back of it as the front of it. The other one is a Laurent Ferrier Gallet micro rotor. This one is called the Montre Ecole British Racing Green. Apparently, British Racing Green isn't very popular. It's a color I've always liked, though. So I like that one. I tried one of these on the other day in New York. I'm not sure. It's one of those ones I have to think about. Now, the final one is this Keri Voutilanen Vings 8 ISO. The problem with that watch is I can't afford it. I think they run around $100,000, which is way over my pay grade, but it's one of those watches that, you keep an eye out for it, and every now and then they desperately need money and want to drop into something that is within my range. But right now, from Exceptional Horology, the one I actually want the most, and it doesn't cost the most, is the Lang & Hein, mainly because I'll flip it over and take a look at the trigonal bridge. Okay, now, having gone through those and looked at those, what it's done, I'm not saying you should get them, but I think what might be a useful exercise for you is to go through the 4 tiers and say, what would be a watch that I would like to have? And then you can look at it and sort of have some kind of use it for planning. The other thing about these, it can change. Like the Frederick II is a change from the Frederick III. The Voutilanen, that British Racing Green, is brand new. And I saw one the other day in autumn. It's a color they call autumn that I liked a lot too. But here I have a sort of a map of things. If I've got some, able to accumulate enough money to save up enough, I'm going to get the Lang. And then the other ones will come depending on what happens. I might have to sell some watches to get them, other kinds of things, but at least I've got sort of a roadmap. And like I said, this isn't a recommendation for anybody, except insofar the recommendation is take a look at these tiers and say, I wonder what I would like from these different tiers. Not with the idea that they're the best or they have to have it. It's the one that makes you feel right. Okay, well, naturally, I would really like to get your feedback on this, what you think. And this is always an invitation to subscribe if you'd like. So until next week, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Outside, the Art and Science of Watch Collection.